or break a politician's future in the with the president over things such as the rising program.
He should have won, Massie. He should have won, but when you have pro-Israel groups, when you have these PACs who inject so much money into the race.
Massie lost the president's endorsement, and then he lost the Republican primary in Kentucky's 4th district. He had high-profile stoushes with the president over things such as the release of the Epstein files, the Iran war, and of rising program. And rounding out our counterpoints panel,
Robbie Suave of the Hill, the conservative commentator.
Well, joining us for this discussion is Anna Kasparian, co-host and executive producer at The Young Turks, an independent American
one of the goated debaters. Anna Kasparian, one of the goated debaters. Anna Kasparian
of the Hill's Rising program. And rounding out our counterpoints,
Shabbos, the super pro Israel
political commentator, another independent American media organization. To all of you, welcome back to Counterpoints. Well, Congressman Thomas Massie lost the president's endorsement, and then he lost the Republican primary in Kentucky's 4th district.
On Tuesday. Crazy.
He had high-profile stoushes with the president over things such as the release of the Epstein files, the Iran war, and of course the big
unlawful war
bill.
Yeah.
The victory for Trump-backed candidate Ed Galrain leaves no doubt in many people's
however
minds
you pronounce
that
it.
the president alone can make or break a politician's future in the GOP. Take a listen, first of all, before we get into the discussion, this comment from Senator Lindsey Graham.
So Bill
Cassidy of Louisiana, he lost
trying to destroy Trump. Massie's going to lose because he's trying to destroy the agenda. You can disagree with President Trump, but if you try to destroy him, you're going to lose because this is the party of Donald Trump.
Crazy.
Shabbos. Is it
Lindsey Graham, the war hawk, the neocon, the war lover, the super pro-Israel person, Lindsey Graham, the super pro-Israel cretin
in the GOP. Take a listen, first of all, before we get into the discussion, this comment from Senator Lindsey Graham.
So Bill Cassie's Trump.
Shabbos. Is it the Republican Party, or, as Senator Graham calls it, is it the party of Donald Trump?
Are synonymous. And look, last night we kind of realized that the woke right did what the woke right does best, which is
define woke right, bro. Yeah, this guy, he's tripping. He's tripping. He's tripping.
The Republican Party, or as Senator Graham calls it,
he's calling people who are not simps of this genocidal country, Israel. Woke right.
That the woke right did what the woke right does best, which is lose. They do not have any political support across this country.
He defines woke right as
on Twitter. They have
people of a subsection of the political right in which the people of this group have fair criticisms of the Israel government and of IDF and of Netanyahu. They have fair and legit criticisms. They have legit criticisms of what Israel is doing in these different Middle Eastern countries, Gaza, Iran, Lebanon, different places. He defines woke right as the subsection of the political right in which the people of the group have fair criticisms of the Israel government, of Netanyahu, and of the IDF. The IDF, the Israel Defense Forces, bro. Yeah, it is crazy, bro. Yeah, this dude, he has no room to call people woke right when this dude simps for a whole genocidal country. He simps for a dude who uses starvation as a method of war. A person who is in support of ethnic cleansing, bro, of illegal dispossession of people from where they were born. Yeah. It is crazy, bro. It is all the way crazy. This dude, he's a hypocrite. He He labels other people woke right. The Candaces, the Megans, the Tuckers, the Dave S's, the Anomalies. He labels these people, the Alex Joneses, he labels them woke right. When he simps for a whole murderous country, bro. Yeah, it is nuts. It is all the way nuts. Yeah, it is the pots calling the kettle black. It really is. Yeah, the delusion is crazy. The lack of self-awareness, the lack of self-awareness is crazy. Yo. He should be the last person speaking, talking, calling people woke right when he engages in woke right behavior. He engages in the behavior he accuses other people of engaging in, bro. He labels people who don't simp for this country. He thinks everybody who's in opposition to what is going on, anti-Semitic, Jew-hating, evil, terrorist sympathizers. Yeah, it is nuts. It is all the way nuts. Bro. He's doing what the woke lefties do, what the far lefties do. The far lefties who support these Muslim terror groups. He's doing the same thing these far leftists who support the Muslim terror groups do. They call everybody who's in opposition to these Muslim terror groups Islamophobic, anti-Muslim, anti-Islam. It is the same ish. It is just of a different form. It is wokeness, but of a different form. So who are you to say anything, to call anybody woke right? Goofy?
You can disagree with President Trump.
Is it the party of Donald Trump?
Cállate la boca.
And look, last night we kind of realized that the woke right did what the woke right does best, which is lose. They do not have any political support across this country. Assuming you don't count, of course, Pakistani bots on Twitter. They have elected 0 people to Congress. They have passed 0 pieces of legislation. They do not build. All they do is blame. And I was on the left. I grew up watching Anna Kasparian and Cenk Uygur on the Young Turks. And then I decided I wanted to be conservative.
Nasty work. He said his name all the way wrong. It is Cenk Uygur. Yeah, it is nuts.
President Trump, Thomas Massie is an
how does he not know how to pronounce this dude's name at this point? I get it. It is hard to pronounce certain people's names, but if you were a big fan for years, how do you not know? Yeah, he's dishonest, bro. It is what it is.
Of that money, only roughly
goofy, all the way goofy.
He lost his renomination bid, which is the
just because he disagrees with Cenk, just because he doesn't align with Cenk politically, he thinks it is okay to mispronounce his name purposely. He thinks it is okay to mispronounce purposely his name.
Of that money, only
terrible.
$150,000 came from Kentuckians. His biggest fans are people like Anna Kasparian, people like Ro Khanna, people on the far left. So when you spend your campaign or the day before your
they're
campaign,
not of the far left. Anna, she left the far left. She told her story. She doesn't align with the far left anymore. She's unaffiliated. She is unaffiliated, unaligned. She's left-leaning still, yes, but she's not of the far left anymore. She's not of the cult. She was of the cult for a long time. She was very radical. She was very intolerable, insufferable for many years. Over a decade and a half or something like that. She was very radical, very anti-Republican, very anti-conservative, very anti the opposite political party. She used to engage in traducement, calumniation of people who disagreed with her politically. She used to be very indecorous, very impudent, very insolent, very harsh. She used a lot of harsh labels, harsh words, that unfairly harsh words, to be precise. Yes, She used a lot of these words. She owns up to what she did. She owns up to her transgressions, to her hostility, her unhealthy anger, unhealthy hatred for the Republican Party. She became more balanced. She became more rational, more reasonable, more logical, more based, more on point. She's way more based than she was a few years ago in the pandemic era. She's way more tolerable. She's way more able to be tolerated now. She is way more tolerable now. She is way more tolerable now. No BS. She is fair. She is willing to be fair to both teams. She is highly willing to be fair to both teams. She doesn't simp for the left or the right. If she bravely opposes when she feels that something is worth, when she bravely publicly opposes when she feels that something is worthy of opposition. She does oppose. She bravely publicly opposes when she feels there is something that is worthy of opposition, of denunciation, of criticism. Yeah. She doesn't hold back. She's not fearful. She's not intimidated. She's not timorous. She is all the way real. She doesn't pull any punches, they say. She doesn't. Yeah, is it she doesn't pull any punches? Yeah, I believe that is the thing. Yeah. She keeps it all the way a buck. If she sees clown stuff, she will oppose it publicly. There's no softness in what she's saying. She's all the way real. She's unapologetic. She doesn't let she doesn't permit people to enslave her, bro. The opinions of other people to enslave her in both teams, in both political parties. She isn't enslaved by their opinions. If people hate her for what she's saying, if people detest her, it is what it is. She's not going to grovel or kiss or backtrack or renege to please people. No, she stands all the way 10 toes down, bro. If she says something indisputably true, incontrovertibly true, but people just disagree with, if she says this, she's not going to bow down, bro. She's going to stand all the way tall, bro. This is the correct thing to do. It is the laudable thing to do. It is the logical thing to do. It is the based thing to do. Yeah. Yeah, we need more people like Anna in media, bro. People who are willing to check both teams when they do sucker-ish, when they do goofy-ish, when they do unlaudable-ish. We need more people in the media like Anna Kasparian. If not enough people check the goofy stuff when they see it, stuff will get worse. So we need more people who don't care if they get hate from their own side or the other side, bro. We need more people who put truth first, who put reality first, who put integrity first. We need more people like Anna, because if not enough people are present in this space who have integrity, things will get worse, bro. Yeah. Salutes to Anna. Her evolution is incredible, really. She's not grifting, she's not faking. She means what she says, bro. Bro. Yeah, she's legit. She's legit. She is legit. Yeah, we don't align politically. She's left-leaning. I'm on the right, so we don't align politically. But she does say a lot of logical things. I agree with when it comes to certain things, certain topics. I agree with a lot of what she says when it comes to certain topics, the war, the Middle East. Yeah, she's very knowledgeable, very well informed. Yeah. She's very truthful when it comes to certain topics. Yeah, she's a beast. We don't agree on everything. Still, we disagree on certain things still, but she's way more logical than she was during the pandemic years, for sure. So to say she's on the far left is preposterous. This is what Jenks says. This is his favorite word. Preposterous words.
Israel lobby, but at the end of the day, Thomas Massie himself, between himself and
Rokana is not
raised close to $15 million.
The worst person either. He's willing to work with people from the opposite team. He's worked with Massie, the Republican, on the Epstein files, bro. This was a bipartisan effort. So to say he's the craziest person is absurd.
No,
it is all the way absurd, bro.
With President Trump, Thomas Massie is an
Cease this nonsense, this drivel, this malarkey, this hogwash,
which is the first time a Republican senator lost.
This claptrap.
So ultimately,
cease it.
Mainstream media is going to concoct a narrative whereby this is about Israel. This is no, the overwhelming majority of the Republican Party still side with President Trump. Thomas Massie is an example of it. But to Lindsey Graham's point, you also saw Bill Cassidy. He lost his renomination bid, which is the first time a Republican senator lost in in 2 decades. So ultimately, the mainstream media is going to concoct a narrative whereby this is about Israel. This is about the pro-Israel lobby.
Yeah, he's making monolithic remarks as if everybody is saying this
an example of it. But to Lindsey Graham's
position
point, you also saw Bill
or
Cassidy.
assertion.
He lost his renomination bid.
Yo, Shabbos, he's so bad faith, it is crazy. He's intelligent, don't get it twisted, but he's very bad faith.
To know that the overwhelming majority of the Republican Party still side with
F
President
this
Trump.
dude.
Thomas Massie is an example of it, but to Lindsey Graham's point, you
F
also
this
saw Bill
dude,
Cassidy.
Shabbos.
He lost his renomination. 0 pieces of legislation. They do not build. All they do is blame. And I was on the left. I grew up watching Anna Kasparian and Cenk Uygur on the Young Turks. And then I decided I wanted to be a conservative. I wanted to be part of Team MAGA. And
You're
I'm
a
very
puppet.
happy to know that the overwhelming majority of the Republican Party still side with President Trump.
This
Thomas
guy is
Massie
no
is an
real
example of it,
conservative.
but
He's
to
a
Lindsey Graham's
puppet.
point, you
He's a
also saw
puppet.
Bill Cassidy. He lost his renomination bid, which is the first time a Republican senator lost in in 2 decades. So ultimately, the mainstream media is going to concoct a narrative whereby this is about Israel, this is about the pro-Israel lobby. But at the end of the
Here we
day,
go.
Thomas Massie himself, between himself and his super PACs, raised close to $15 million. Of that money, only roughly $150,000 came from Kentuckians. His biggest fans are people like Anna Kasparian, people like Rokana, people on the far left. So when you spend your campaign or the day before your campaign going on the Young Turks and not campaigning in your district, not speaking to conservatives, it's kind of no wonder that you will lose elections. So yes, if you call Donald Trump a pedophile, which is what Thomas Massie was doing for months on end.
There's no evidence to prove to be true that Massie called Trump a pedophile. He said Trump was protecting pedophiles. This is a different thing. Trump is protecting pedophiles. Massie was being truthful when he said this. He didn't call Trump a pedophile. There's no evidence to prove that Trump is a pedophile now. There's a possibility, but people shouldn't put the jacket on Trump too soon before the facts appear. Wait for the facts to appear first, then come to your conclusion. But don't assume too soon that somebody is something like a pedophile. Yo, those are serious accusations, bro. Don't. It is detestable to accuse somebody of doing a depraved act with no evidence, bro, with no proof. This is detestable. No, it doesn't matter if you love Trump or hate Trump, bro. You have to be of integrity. You have to be in accordance with morality, bro. You can't deviate from morality just because you dislike certain people. You can't deviate from morality just because you dislike certain people. You have to remain in accordance with morality. It is what it is. You have to remain in accordance with morality. It is what it is. But Yeah. Yeah, Massie, he said Trump is protecting pedophiles. This is a different thing. He knows this, but he's purposely nasty, bro. F this dude.
And not campaigning in your district, not speaking to conservatives, it's kind of no wonder that you will lose elections. So yes, if you call Donald Trump a pedophile,
if you are going to be critical, be honest. Be honest, bro. At least.
40 points,
if you are going to criticize people, be honest. Put your bias aside, bro.
You'll probably lose. Of that money, only roughly $150,000 came from Kentuckians.
He's letting emotion dictate instead of letting logic dictate. This is what makes Shabbos goofy. This is what makes the people of his ilk, the people who share his sentiments, goofy. This is what makes Shabbos and the rest of the people of his ilk, the people who share his sentiments, goofy also.
You also saw Bill Cassidy. He lost his renomination bid, which is the first time a Republican senator lost in in 2 decades. So ultimately, the mainstream media is going to concoct a narrative whereby this is about Israel, this is about the pro-Israel lobby, but at the end of the day,
his ilk, as in the anti-Massie,
the $15 million. Of that money, only roughly $150,000 came from. No, the overwhelming majority of the Republican Party still side with President Trump.
This is what the people of his ilk, as in the anti-Massie, the anti-America first, the pro-Israel first subgroup of the Republican Party.
The mainstream media is going to concoct a narrative whereby this is about Israel, this is about the pro-Israel lobby. The overwhelming majority of the Republican Party still side with President Trump. Thomas Massie is an example of it, but to Lindsey Graham's point, that the woke right did what the woke right does best, which in 2 decades. So ultimately, the mainstream media is going to concoct a narrative whereby this is about Israel, this is about the pro-Israel lobby, but at the end of the day, Thomas Massie himself, between himself and his super PACs, raised close to $15 million. Of that money, only roughly $150,000 came from Kentuckians. His biggest fans are people like Anna Kasparian, people like Ro Khanna, people on the far left.
Ro Khanna, the Democratic congressman of California.
Young Turks and not campaigning in your district, not speaking to conservatives, it's kind of no wonder that you will lose elections. So yes, if you call Donald Trump a pedophile, which is what Thomas Massie was doing for months on end, and then Donald Trump in a district where he won by more than 40 points starts speaking out against you, you'll probably lose.
Anna, obviously, I need to hand this straight to you. What do you make of it?
Well, for anyone who's listening to this right now and maybe questioning the credibility of Shabbos, you should consider the fact that if he had grown up watching the Young Turks, he would know how to pronounce Cenk Uyghur's name. It's not Cenk Uyghur or whatever it is that he said. His opening line is literally, "Welcome to the Young Turks. I'm your host, Cenk Uyghur." So unnecessary lies. If you're lying about that, what else are you lying about? To say that the Israel lobby had no impact on this election is laughable when you consider the fact that Thomas Massie has drawn the ire of President Donald Trump in past elections.
The lividity, the
Trump
anger.
has tried to primary him previously and failed to do so. If you look at the in-depth reporting in terms of the campaign funds raised against Massie in this race, this is according to Politico, a pair of pro-Israel super PACs linked to the American Israel Public Affairs Committee and the Republican Jewish Coalition spent more than $9 million targeting Massie, who has routinely rejected efforts to financially aid and symbolically support Israel. Another PAC known as
Massie, he agreed with most of what Trump on mostly. He agreed with Trump on mostly everything. But because he didn't agree with Trump on everything, 100% of everything Trump said, he was punished. He was sadly punished. It shouldn't be this way, but it is this way. It is crazy.
$9 million targeting Massie, who has routinely rejected efforts to financially
He
aid
demands
and symbolically
complete
support
obeisance.
Israel.
If you are not a complete lackey of his, then you are the enemy. It is sad. This is tyranny.
Stood up to Trump.
This is despotism.
Against Massie in this race.
Unbelievable.
To Politico, a pair of pro-Israel super PACs linked to the American Israel Public Affairs Committee and the Republican Jewish Coalition spent more than $9 million targeting Massie, who has routinely rejected efforts to financially aid and symbolically support Israel. Another PAC, known as MAGA KY PAC, unfortunate name, stood up to Trump's top political rival here, Massie, by spending $7 million berating Massie in this election. Now, MAGA KY, that sounds like it's a 100% American-led
on the surface,
PAC, except you do a little bit of digging and you find out that the two founders of that PAC, one of them is Chris LaCivita, who of course was one of Trump's campaign managers, and the other individual, Fabrizio is his last name, turns he helped to get Benjamin Netanyahu reelected. He works as a campaign strategist for Israelis. We have Israeli infiltration in our political system, in our elections, and it's a huge problem.
They influence the majority of Congress, both parties. Both parties, the majority of both parties.
Is his last name. Turns out that he helped to get Benjamin Netanyahu reelected.
It is
he
sickening.
Works as a campaign strategist
a
for
disease,
Israelis.
a social
we have
disease.
Israeli infiltration in our political system, in our elections, and it's a huge
objectionable.
problem.
Yes,
because how are you going to compete against Zionist billionaires like Miriam Adelson as they're pumping more and more money into defeating anyone who dare cross Israel? And if you want to talk about
who dare rebel,
just for Israelis,
who dare deviate, who dare dissent, who dare diverge from the prevailing narrative, the dominant narrative.
How are you going to compete against Zionist billionaires like Miriam Adelson as they're pumping more and more money into defeating anyone who dare cross
Israel is the greatest ally and the most
he turned on
the country with the most moral army and all of this garbage.
For Israelis. We have Israeli infiltration in our political system, in our elections, and it's a huge problem because how are you going to compete against Zionist billionaires like Miriam Adelson as they're pumping more and more money into defeating anyone who dare cross Israel? And if you want to talk about why Trump turned on Massie in the first place, he turned on Massie over the Epstein files. The Epstein files were something that the Israelis weirdly didn't want released, and then once you get a little bit of those files released, you realize that Epstein had a very close and cozy tie with Israel, including making deals, security deals for them. So again, this idea that it was totally Trump. Okay, even if you buy that argument, why did Trump turn on Massie? It was because Massie was refusing to do the bidding of the Israel lobby.
To be a minion, to be a lackey.
I'm gonna have to quickly respond because Anna, it's good to see you again. And again, my coffee invite in LA is still open, but you've mispronounced my name every single time on Piers Morgan, and I never accused you once of lying. I just think it's a tough name, so I wouldn't accuse you of lying. So I will accept your apology later, but I digress. It's interesting that you talk about Zionist billionaires because actually Jeff Yass funded Thomas Massie's campaign as well. I find it interesting.
There's no evidence to prove this. There's no evidence. I looked this up.
You don't talk about the Council on American in LA is still open, but you've mispronounced my name every single time on Piers Morgan, and I never accused you once of
Shabbos. He's so purposely bad faith, bro. It is
accept your apology later, but
sickening all the way.
It's interesting that you talk about Zionist billionaires because actually Jeff Yass funded Thomas Massie's campaign as well. I find it interesting that you don't talk about NIAC, the National Iranian American Council. I find it interesting you don't talk about the Council on American Islamic Relations. I find it interesting you don't talk about the Jordanian Muslims, the Marouk family, who also funded him. You don't talk about the Iranian
What evidence? What's evidence? What sources? Give the sources. Give the sources, bro. Cite your sources.
Funded Thomas Massie's campaign as well. I find it interesting that you don't talk about NIAC, the National Iranian American Council. I find it interesting you don't talk about the Council on American Islamic Relations. I find it interesting you don't talk about the Jordanian Muslims, the Marouk family, who also funded him. You don't talk about the Iranian Joe Kini, who I hope I'm pronouncing his name correctly. I find it interesting that you're talking about how AIPAC has this ability to simply fund elections with any money they want, yet Maureen Galindo, who said that American Zionists need to be put in internment camps, actually won her election yesterday. Chris Rabb, who said that the Bondi Beach massacre, which killed 10 Jews by an Islamist, including a 9-year-old girl, Matilda, he said it was a false flag. He won his election yesterday. So if AIPAC is, buying any election they want, how come they didn't buy those elections? Why did they allow those candidates to win? So again, if you want to focus on money, then sure, Thomas Massie also raised $15 million from Islamist groups, from far-left Democrats.
What's evidence? Where's the evidence, bro?
Kamala Harris raised $1 billion.
He did not go on our show repeatedly.
You made that up. Excuse me. He went on your show the day before the election, all right?
You can't just lie.
He came on for a second, go on your show the day before the election.
Technical issues and had to drop off. Let's be very clear about that.
Okay.
Why are you lying about that? That's such an unnecessary.
He's goofy. He's goofy.
After the election was called.
I'm going to continue talking.
He's trash.
After the election was called.
No, you don't get to
listen.
interrupt.
He's evil.
can yell at me as much as you want. It's not an
argument. That they buy elections and gaslight us when we say, oh yeah, they buy our elections. AIPAC posted about this immediately after Massie lost the election and said, our community was proud to help pro-Israel candidates win these races. Okay. So which one is it?
I want to bring...
Shabbos, he's bugging, bro. He provided no evidence. He just made accusations. He's taking money from these Middle Eastern countries, bro. Jordan, where's the evidence? You have to give evidence. You can't just make accusations, throw imputations. You have to give proof, real proof. If you don't give real proof, if there's no basis in reality, if the claims are groundless, if they're baseless, you have no credibility, bro. You should lose credibility. If you have credibility, you should lose credibility, bro, because you are not to be trusted. You shamelessly say BS, bro. You shamelessly manipulate to cause hatred, to cause division, bro. This is really crazy. There's no real evidence to prove that he took money from these Middle Eastern countries, bro. There's no real proof to substantiate these claims, bro. So it is detestable that he's saying these things. It is all the way shameful, bro. You have to cease. You have to cease this. You have to cease. You really have to cease this. It is nuts. This messes your reputation. This hurts your reputation. This really hurts your reputation, your credibility. This really hurts your reputation and your credibility. But you don't care because you don't give an F. You don't care because you are you don't give an F or care because you are a morally mucky person. It is what it is.
Immediately after Massie lost the election and said, stop whining about my tone and focus on the substance. Be a grown adult.
Okay.
That's exactly what I'm about to do.
First of all,
hang on, let me quickly respond because she keeps interrupting. And I
posted about this immediately after Massie lost the election and said, our community was proud to help pro-Israel candidates win these races. Okay. So which one is it?
I want to bring Robbie in. First of all, Shabbos.
Hang on, let me quickly respond because she keeps interrupting. And I have to say that, Anna, for the millionth time, yelling at me is not an argument. Like, being aggressive is not a qualitative, substantiated claim. If you want to say that there's money in politics, I agree with you, but I find
about my tone and focus on the substance. Be a grown adult.
Okay.
That's exactly what I'm about to do, but you keep interrupting me. I agree there's too much money in politics, but when you only focus on one political group, which does not even represent more than 0.5% of all political lobbying being spent, then you're doing it for nefarious motives. Why don't you also talk about the fact that Thomas Massie...
First of all, Shabbos.
We have to purge politics of money, bro. We have to rid politics of money.
Like, being aggressive is not a qualitative.
Money influences really bad decisions.
Stop whining about my tone and focus on the substance. Be a grown adult.
Okay.
That's exactly what I'm about to do, but you keep interrupting me. I agree there's too much money in politics, but when you only focus on one political group, which does not even represent...
Certain people are not focusing only on Israel. There are consistent people who are anti-Israel. They don't want any country, foreign country, to be funded.
Yelling at me is not an argument. Like, being aggressive
Shabbos, he's being
deceitful.
deceitful.
If you want to say that there's money in politics, I agree with you, but I find
about my tone and focus on the substance. Be a grown adult.
Okay.
That's exactly what I'm about to do.
So what Shabbos is saying is invalidated.
One political group, which does not even represent more than 0.5% of all political
Shabbos, he's goofy.
spent, then you're doing it for nefarious motives. Why don't you also talk about the fact that Thomas
Anna's not, Jake's not, Dave S. isn't.
Why don't you talk about that as well? I agree with you money, but hey, I am making the point.
anomaly isn't.
There's too much money in politics. When you only focus on one political
This bloke
group, which
isn't.
does not even represent more than 0.5% of all political lobbying being spent, then you're doing it for
No
nefarious
foreign
motives.
country
Why don't you
should
also
be
talk about
funded
the fact that Thomas Massie was being run by billionaires, by radical Islamists? Why don't we talk about that as well? I agree.
Take away innocent people, to displace people, to starve people, to engage in depravity, barbarity, savagery. No foreign country should be funded to do
I agree. There's too much money in politics.
inhumane-ish. It is what it
which
is.
does not even represent more than 0.5% of all political lobbying
This
being
is
spent, then you're doing it for
consistency.
nefarious motives. Why don't
Goofy.
you also talk about the fact that Thomas Massie was being run by billionaires, by radical Islamists? Why don't we talk about that as well? I agree.
Radical
there's too much money.
Islamists.
But the reason a lot of people are not discussing other countries is because the U.S. is not funding these countries, giving these countries a crazy, inordinate amounts of money that it gives Israel, bro. Yeah, we have to be all the way a buck, bro.
Posted about this immediately after Massie lost the election and said,
We have to be fair, bro.
community was proud to help
People can't be fair because they are goofy people. They can't be fair because they are goofy people.
Interrupting, and I have to say that Anna, for the
Israel candidates win these races.
Okay.
So which one is it?
I want to bring Robbie in. First of all, Shabbos.
Hang on, let me quickly respond because she keeps interrupting. And I have to say that, Anna, for the millionth time, yelling at me is not an argument. Like, being aggressive is...
That doesn't unnecessarily...
Okay.
APAC, after the election was called... After the election was called... After the election was called...
No, you don't get to interrupt. Yelling is not an argument.
Zionists can't...
Yell at me as much as you want. It's not an argument.
That they buy elections and gaslight us when we say, oh yeah, they buy our elections. APAC posted about this immediately after Massie lost the election and said, our community was proud to help pro-Israel candidates win these races. Okay. So which one is it?
Shameless.
I want to bring Robbie in. First of all, Shabbos.
Hang on, let me quickly respond because she keeps interrupting. And I have to say that, Anna, for the millionth time, yelling at me is not an argument.
She knows,
being
bro.
aggressive
She
is not a
knows.
qualitative, substantiated claim. If you want to say that there's money in politics, I agree with
Stop
you, but I
whining
find
about my tone and focus on the substance. Be a grown
Facts.
adult.
Okay.
That's exactly what I'm about to do, but you keep interrupting me. I agree there's too much money in politics, but when you only focus on one political group...
Shabbos, he's being fragile, bro. Anna wasn't calling him names or anything. She wasn't resorting to ad hominem attacks or low blow attacks or vituperative remarks. She wasn't doing this, bro. Yeah, her tone was, she was loud, but yeah, you have to be able to handle this. Yeah, this fragility is this fragility these pro-Israel people have is crazy, bro. The fragility these super pro-Israel people have is all the way crazy.
Called after the election was called.
No, you don't
Focus on the substance.
Zionists can't run into our faces.
Anna is correct.
That they buy elections and gaslight us when we say, oh yeah, they buy
When
our
she
elections.
says focus on the
posted about this
substance.
immediately after
The
Massie lost the
substance.
election and said, our community was proud to help pro-Israel
When she
candidates
says to
win
focus
these
on
races.
the substance,
Which one is it?
she is correct.
I want to bring
Goofy.
Robbie in. First of all, Shabbos.
Hang on, let me quickly respond because she keeps interrupting. And I have to say that, Anna, for the millionth time, yelling at me is not an argument. Like, being aggressive is not a qualitative, substantiated claim. If you want to say that there's money in politics, I agree with you, but I find
about my tone and focus on the substance. Be a grown adult.
Okay.
That's exactly what I'm about to do, but you keep interrupting me. I agree there's too much money in politics, but when you only focus on one political group, which does not even represent more than 0.5% of all political lobbying being spent, then you're doing it for nefarious motives. Why don't you also talk about the fact that Thomas Massie was being run by billionaires, by radical Islamists?
What's evidence? Give the evidence, bro. Yo, you can't just say stuff, bro.
Even if you have money in politics, which I want to get rid of, that still doesn't translate into forcing Kentuckians to not support a candidate. Kamala Harris had $1 billion and she still lost. What, you're telling me that 60,000 Kentuckians who wanted strong borders, who wanted DHS funded, who didn't believe that Donald Trump was a
Department
pedophile,
of Homeland
they were forced into voting
Security.
against Thomas Massie? No, they didn't like the guy. That's what elections come down to.
Okay, all right.
Certain
Robbie,
people
is
are
it that
puppets,
they didn't
credulous
like
dupes,
the guy? Is it
rubes.
as simple as that?
Not everybody who
Who
opposed to Massie is genuinely informed or aware or intelligent.
Robbie, is it that
Keep
they
it a
didn't
buck.
like the guy? Is it as simple as that?
This is fun. Look, I think
Yeah,
for
you've got a lot to
millions of
weigh in on,
Americans-
Robbie. Go for it.
millions of Americans who are neither obsessed with Israel and see it as the prime mover in everything that happens in politics, nor incredibly defensive of Israel more so than any other
placatory or laudative, super placatory or super laudative of this genocidal creed in this country, as in the government, not the people.
Sure, millions of Americans.
I love the Jewish people, the Israeli people of this country, but the government is creediness. It is what it is. They are for the illegal dispossession of people in Gaza.
And who don't care one way or the other and want to be less involved, which frankly is
the elimination
where Thomas Massie was.
Of Gazans, of Palestinians. So,
like that. Massie has
the government, but not the people.
Funding to Ukraine, or incredibly defensive of Israel more so than any other country, and who don't care one way or the other and want to be less involved, which frankly is, I think, mostly where Thomas Massie was. Not all of his fans and supporters are like that. Massie has said that he opposes funding to Ukraine and Egypt and USAID and every other thing you can think of, but it was Israel-backed or Israel wealthy people who were most involved in this race. Look, this is mostly about his personal beef with Trump. It's personal for Trump. It's not personal for Massie. Massie has continued to vote the same way he's voted for 14 years, saying he will not vote to impoverish, to riddle with debt his children and their children's children. Nothing there has changed. What changed is the Republican Party, which has promised my whole life to actually do something about the size of government and debt, now having
the national debt
moment of vast political power over every aspect of our government, did nothing to follow through in their promises. And
isolation, hypocrisy.
They made this promise. It came out of Trump's lips himself. No new wars, and we're doing new wars, and Massie was critical of it.
Trump, so, Robbie, do you think there can be dissent within the Republican Party? Can the
in the eyes of the puppets, there can't be dissent.
Well, it's not handling it well, and I think that's a huge problem. This is a Republican primary.
A big issue.
Primary voters are not like voters at large, and in a Republican primary in a deeply red state, whatever Donald Trump says goes.
Yep, they follow. True. They blindly follow him, bro.
I suspected he was cooked weeks ago.
They're sheep. Certain people, not all, but many people who support Trump are sheep.
Because they're disproportionately
They're sheeple. They're easily steered, easily dictated
to. The party is, if you're totally giving nothing, throwing no bones to the younger voters you brought
the Gen Zers, the millennials.
In the last election, you're going to get crushed in the midterms, and
J.D. Vance
stiff consequences. Have a chance, snowball's chance in hell in 2028 with this level of disrespect for what you ran on and the people you brought into the
hypocrisy.
Keep running with the boomers who love
the neocons, the warhawks.
Totally empty suit who didn't do any campaigning, didn't debate Massie. We have no idea who he is.
Yeah, it is crazy. It is nuts.
Trump read my secret files and says I'm great. This is laughable. It's good enough for primary voters.
Yeah.
It will not be good enough in midterms and in 2028. That's my warning.
Logical.
What
Robbie said was logical.
Of that warning. I mean, Trump and his loyalists.
What Robbie said was logical. I dislike that he isn't harsh enough on Israel. He doesn't have to be abusive. Don't be abusive to Israel, to don't be unfair to Netanyahu, even though he's a cretin, he's a bozo, he's a monster. He should be in the Hague, Hague, for the criminal stuff he did, for the depraved stuff he did. But yeah. Don't be unfair, be fair, but you have to be all the way harsh. Don't be euphemistic, don't be soft, don't be a little bit soft. He's harsher than a lot of these pro-Israel people in the Republican Party. He's way tougher, or he's a lot tougher for sure, but but he's not tough enough on Israel, on Netanyahu, on the government. But no hate for Robbie. He's able to oppose Trump. He's able to oppose Netanyahu. He's able to denounce depravity, regardless of who it is coming from. So salutes to Robbie for this, but he's not harsh enough to me. Yeah, he would be more based if he was harsher. He would be more based if he was. He would be more based if he was all the way real when it comes to Israel, the Middle East, the conflict. But no hate for Robbie. He's willing to oppose depravity regardless. He is willing to bravely, publicly oppose depravity regardless of who it is coming from. So salutes to him, but he has to be harsher. It is what it is. We will end it here. It is too long. I will put the link to this video in the description of my video, so y'all can see the full video on your whenever y'all can. Yeah. Anna, she cooked what Robbie said was logical. Shabbos, he's purposely bad faith of him. He's intelligent, but he is very manipulative, very dishonest. F him, he's a cretin, he's a goofy, he's a bozo. F him, bro. Yeah. Before I leave, I will say this. I forgot to say this. Thomas Massie, people are accusing him of impropriety, sexual misconduct, and emotional abuse. Cynthia West is a lady who said she dealt with Thomas Massie. She was romantically involved with Thomas Massie. She accused him of impropriety and emotional abuse. She was talking to the super pro-Israel cretin Laura Loomer, one of the most terrible people alive. Yeah. She was interviewed by Loomer. She said her story. This lady, what she said, as for this, there's no real evidence to prove that Massie engaged in emotional abuse or impropriety. I praise Massie, but if he did engage in these things, he should be held accountable. He should be punished. No politician is infallible. No politician is flawless. All politicians are capable of hurt, abuse, harm, evil. So this isn't Massie simpery or Massie a kissery or poltroonery. This isn't Massie poltroonery. This isn't Massie brown nosery. This isn't Massie brown nosery or sycophancy. No, this isn't puppet-ish. This is reality, bro. If he did engage in these things, if the accusations are proven to be true later, he should be held accountable in a fair way, in a tough but fair way. Massie is not above criticism or consequences. No politician is. No, this is for politicians across the board, left, right, Republican, Democrat. If you engage in abuse or harm or transgression, you should be held accountable. It is what it is. There should be no sympathy. There should be no bias. You should be held accountable. But there's no proof now to substantiate. There is no real proof to substantiate. There is no real proof to substantiate the claim that he engaged in these things. So we will see. We will wait for the facts to appear. There is no real proof to substantiate the claim that he engaged in these things. So we will wait and see. We will wait for the facts to appear. Facts. This is the way it should be. Don't put jackets on people prematurely. Don't put jackets on people prematurely just because you dislike them or disagree with them. Don't put jackets on people prematurely just because you dislike them or disagree with them politically or whatever. Wait for the facts to appear, then come to your conclusions. But assuming things with no evidence is detrimental, detestable, evil, disgraceful, all of these things. So wait for the facts to appear, then come to your conclusions. Peace.